Hey 6th grade, so this is going to be our last video for the year. Today would technically be your last day of school, so happy last day of school. One thing we struggled this year was long division. So you did a great job multiplying, but when we got to the opposite of multiplication, you struggled a little bit. So we're going to hit on that today, and we're going to look at a few division problems. I'm going to give you 2 examples, and then I'm going to give you some practice problems that you can do on your own. I'm going to post the answers to these practice problems in the comments. So after you work them out, you can check yourself. So let's get started. Here's our first problem we're going to look at. So this year we learned 2 new words that we're going to put into place here. So the number on the inside of, we can say this is our house, is our dividend. If you think about the word inside that word, you can think it's in the house. And then the number on the outside, or what we're dividing by, is the divisor. So we're going to label those. Now I've labeled the parts of my problem. I have my dividend, which is inside the house, my divisor, which is what we are dividing by, and we already know that the answer to a division problem is our quotient. So to read this problem, I would say 4,959 divided by 15, and the answer I'm going to get is my quotient. Now we're ready to divide. So I'm going to take my divisor, and I'm going to think about my whole dividend. Well, I'm not ready to use all the numbers in my dividend, so I'm going to look at the first one. And I'm going to ask myself, okay, can 15 go into 4? Is 4 divisible by 15? My answer is going to be no, because 4 is smaller than 15. So I'm going to move on to 49. 15 times what gets me close to 49? Well, when I think about a clock, I know that 15 times 3 would get me 45. So that's the closest I'm going to get. So above the 9, I'm going to put a 3. And then I'm going to subtract the answer to my multiplication problem. So 49 minus 45, which gives me 9 minus 5 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So my next step is to bring down the next number, and that is a 5. Well, can 15 go into 45? Yes, we just figured that out. So 15 times 3 again gives me 45. So I'm going to subtract 45 again. Then I'm left with 0. So my next number comes down, and that is a 9. So can 15 go into 9? No, because 15 is larger than 9. So this is where we added in an additional step. So we're going to put a 0 up here because 15 can't go into 9. So we're going to subtract 0, and we're still left with 9. So we're not finished with our problem yet because we still have a number down here. So to our dividend, we're going to add a decimal 0. When I add a decimal, I bring it straight up. We just pop it up. Now I can bring down my 0. So I need to figure out 15 times what gives me 90. Well, if I know 15 times 3 is 45. So let's try 15 times 5. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Bring over a 20, so 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 75. So that's not quite big enough. So let's go up one. So 15 times 6. 5 times 6 gives me 30. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. So 15 times 6 gives me 90. So 15 times 6, subtract 90, because 15 times 6 is 90, and I get 0. When you get 0 at the bottom, and you have no more numbers left to come down, that's when you are finished with this problem. So our quotient would be 330 and 6/10. Remember to check this. You can always multiply your quotient times your divisor, and you should get your dividend. If you didn't get your dividend, then you did something wrong. Now we're going to look at a different problem. For this problem, we have 8,964 divided by 20. So this problem is written out in words. It's not written with a dividend and a divisor. We have to figure that out on our own. So we know it's being divided by 20. So what we just learned that our divisor is what we are dividing by. So 20 is going to be my divisor because that's what I'm dividing by. Then I'm left with my larger number, 8,964. If I already have my divisor, then this is going to be my dividend. So we have 8,964 as my dividend. So now we're ready to divide this problem. So I'm going to switch colors here. We have 20, and then we always start with our first number. 20 cannot go into 8, so I'm going to move on to 89. So I have to think, what can I multiply 20 by to get close to 89 without going over? So I know I can do 20 times 4, and that's going to give me 80. But my number is 89. So let's see if we can go up one more without going over. So we're going to do 20 times 5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. So we cannot do 5 because it gets us to 100. So we're going to do 4. So 20 times 4, subtract 80 because 20 times 4 is 80. And when I subtract, I'm left with 9. Now my 6 comes down. So I have 96. Well, let's think to what we just multiplied. We know 20 times 4 is 80, and 20 times 5 is 100. Well, 100 is bigger than 96, so I cannot use it. So I'm going to use 80 again. So 20 times 4 again gives me 80. And I'm left with 6 because 6 minus 0 is 6, and 9 minus 8 is 1. So I'm left with 16. Now for my next number. We're going to bring it down. So I have 164. So let's try, we know 20 times 5 gives me 100. So let's do 20 times 7. 7 times 0 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14. Well, that's not quite to 164, so I'm going to go up one more. 20 times 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 2 times 8 is 16. Well, if we go up one more, we're definitely going to be larger than 164. So I'm not going to use the 7. I'm going to use the 8. So 20 times 8 equals 160. So I subtract, and I'm left with 4. So I still have a number down here, but I'm out in my dividend. So I'm going to add a decimal 0. And remember, when we add a decimal 0, we bring it straight up. So my next number, I've already used the 4. It already came down. Now I'm going to bring the 0 down. So 20 times what gives me 40? This is one you should know, but we're going to write it out just in case. So 20 times 2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. So 20 times 2 gives me 40. I subtract, and I'm left with 0. I have a 0 on the bottom. I have no numbers left in my dividend, so I'm finished with this problem. And remember, you can always multiply your divisor, by your quotient to get your answer, and if you get your dividend, you are correct. Here's some practice problems for you to do on your own. Go ahead and pause your video, and after you finish, the answers are going to be in the comments so you can check yourself. Don't forget, the Webster Parish School Board portal is still open, and it will be for another month or so if you need to catch up on anything else. It's been so much fun teaching you this year. I hope you learned some stuff. I know I did. Have a great summer.